This is the 12.3-inch infotainment system that you're going to find inside of the Kona EV. It's the exact same screen across all of the vehicles, so all the different trim levels. You're going to have factory navigation and a series of other settings. But let's dive in. I'll show you everything that you need to know. First thing along the very top, you can push the hamburger icon to get to a few options, specifically looking at profiles. So you've got the flexibility to easily change out users. There are technically only, three different options that are available. So you've got driver 1, driver 2, and then a guest profile as well. You can easily confirm in order to be able to set it up. You can't add additional profiles over and above that. So it would technically be just those 3 options available. You can push there again. Push there again in order to be able to get to your online manual. So you just scan the QR code using your phone in order to be able to access the digital owner's manual instead. You can swipe down from the very top if you wanted to turn the display off. Swipe down again if you wanted to adjust your navigation volume, go into quiet mode, which means it's only going to play through the front speakers. There's an available split screen. You can change up the illumination if you want to, and then also adjust the volume for the navigation sounds, or you can mute it out if you wanted to. The little button along the very top gives you a ton of other options that are available. And then back up. You've got the current time, current date, and then you've got maps with a few other options. So you do have factory navigation. Inside of the electric, you can push this little plug icon in order to show you what charging stations are around you. Really useful if you're running low on charge and you need to find somewhere where you can easily charge yourself up. Now, it's going to be a mix of paid versus free as well, but you can go off distance. You can also filter based off of so many different options. There's one that you can't filter off of, though, and that's going to be price. So that's one thing that I would like to see, but still pretty neat that you have so many different options available. And then you can set one as a destination, save it, search for point of interest icons as well. And then actually using factory navigation. So you can get to navigation this way. There are a series of different buttons down the center there as well. So you can push the map button there in order to jump into your map, jump into search, and a few other things. But we'll start off. You've got your search icon, which direction you're currently facing, your navigation. So all of your different volumes there, you can adjust it out. Auto means that it's automatically going to zoom in or out, just depending on how close you are to your end destination. And then you can adjust the scale there as well. It's essentially that same pinch to zoom capability. And back. Searching for addresses, you can go based off of GPS coordinates if you wanted to. So latitude first, longitude second. You can search for point of interest icons. You can start typing in an address that way if you wanted to. But searching for point of interest icons, that's nice and Canadian of me. Look at Tim Hortons, so nice coffee shop. So many different options available. So I'm just going to pick one that's a bit further away. So you can see there, set it as a destination, save the location, or search point of interest icons. Let's set it as a destination. And there are 2 different routes that are available. So it's either the fastest, most economical. And then, it's funny, it actually gives us the same way regardless. Okay. Route options, you can go for the fastest, the most economical, or freeway preferred if you want. You can add in a stop. So this is our end destination now, but you can add in a waypoint essentially. So you can search for an address, look at previous destinations, or other nearby point of interest icons. So if you wanted to charge yourself up first, you've got that flexibility. So you can just select, okay, and then we've got our waypoint along the way. We're just going to calculate. So it's given us the option of getting there. 5.2 kilometers. Definitely not going to take 2 hours, though. That's hilarious. Yeah, it's definitely not going to. That's kind of weird it did that. But yeah, it's not going to take us 2 hours to get there. And it's like a 5-minute drive. But you can see there, that's how you set it up. You can push the X icon in order to cancel the route. Press the home icon to get back home instead. And then you can search up along the very top. You can look at previous destinations. So we've got the 2 addresses that we've been to. You can push the delete icon. You can mark all if you want to. And then from there, delete. And it's deleted all of our previous destinations. And then we've got the 2 addresses that we've searched for. So same idea, delete. You can mark all, delete. And it's gotten rid of our previous destinations that we've saved. You can save addresses as well if you want to. Big benefit, like saving home or work addresses, you can push the voice command prompt and you'd be able to say navigate home, navigate to work, and it would navigate based off of the saved addresses or the saved places you've got there. Then pressing search there brings you back up to this icon there. or hopping back home. Next up is media. So you've got the option for AM, FM, SiriusXM, Bluetooth, USB music, sounds of nature. There are so many different options. So if you prefer those ambient noises instead, that is available as an option if you'd like. But yeah, tons of different choices. Now there is USB music available, and you'd be able to use a USB stick with MP3s on there. But the downside is that the Kona does not have the flexibility of using USB Type A. So it's strictly going to be a USB Type C connection. So USB A is essentially useless here. What you actually have to do is you have to get a little adapter. So this one goes from USB Type A to USB Type C. So if you still have a bunch of USB sticks, you could just set yourself up this way instead. And then all you're going to do is just take that, plug yourself in down the center, and there we go. Now, down the center there as well, you can also look, and there's a button in order to be able to switch between either charging or charging and data. So you just want to make sure that you've got the data connection enabled there. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. But you can see USB music is now available. Well, it's going to take just a second there, reading the device and connect through. And you've got all of the available songs, so files, songs, whatever the case may be. Now it's strictly USB music, so you don't have the option for video playback inside of this screen. So it's strictly going to be audio playback. But I mean, so many different options. Hold on, let's listen to some Beethoven here. Speaker system inside the vehicle is great, but you can go based off of songs, albums, artists, whatever the case may be. And then all of your different audio sources there as well. So Bluetooth audio, I don't have a phone connected, but if you did, that would show up as an available option. And same idea, when you're hooked up to Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, you can select that way in order to play audio that way instead. In order to save in presets, I'm going to go to media for a second there. And you can see AM, FM, SiriusXM, etc. But you see how there's little star icons there? You could push the star icon in order to save a mix of AM, FM, SiriusXM, whatever the case may be. And that's saved under your favorite stations now. You can see there are a ton of different stations that have been saved. If you do a press and hold, you can see all of your available stations that you've saved, so all of your presets. You can select them and delete if you wanted to. And that's going to delete favorites. Or if you hop it inside again, so do a longer press and hold, you could then grab this hamburger icon and drag it around in order to create a perfect position for you. That's straightforward. Next up is going to be, let's go EV. So you've got your battery status there, so you can click through in order to get to a few other options. So this main screen is actually kind of neat. I like the layout, but you can see your total battery percentage, nearby charging stations, and then you've also got the option of clicking through to have the charger locked and a number of other settings. So you're essentially driving in to additional options. This is pretty neat though, because you can see how much power you're using for different options. But let's start off with battery status along the top, and you've got next departure. So one cool thing is you're essentially preconditioning the cabin this way. So let's say if you have a tendency to leave at 7 o'clock in the morning, Monday to Friday, you can set yourself up so that the AC is going, or in the wintertime, so that the heat's going with the windshield defroster going at the same time. So you just hop into your car when you're plugged in and you're charged up and you're set to go. And you can have multiples connected, or set up, I should say. So if you're going to leave at the same time every day, so whether it's leaving to work, coming home, whatever the case may be, you can set up multiple times. AC charging limit. So you can schedule charging specifically for on-peak hours if you want to, or off-peak, I should say. And it's when are you going to be able to charge? So when are you going to get the cheapest electricity rates? So you can kind of do a drag around, and then you can charge only during off-peak hours if you wanted to. Charging current. So one thing that you'll notice, some charging stations, it may not necessarily work properly. And that's just based off of the charging current. So if it's different for the vehicle versus the actual charging station, if you're ever running into an issue where you can't charge up properly, what I'd actually recommend doing is setting yourself up to either 60 or 90% of the max charge. It's still going to charge up. It's just that you're not going to utilize the total available current for the charge station. And then, do you want the charging cable when you plug yourself in? Do you want to always be locked, strictly locked while you're charging, or never locked? I always recommend always locked. And the big benefit there is that people just can't, like, you can do it while charging, but people just can't unplug your charger while you're charging up. Charging limit. Typically with supercharging, you want to go no more than 80%. AC charging, go up to 100. Now, whether you go for 100 versus 80%, whatever the case may be, is going to depend on what you're doing. So general rule of thumb, you want to stay at around 80% charged, unless your plan is to take the vehicle for a longer trip, in which case you're going to want to go to either 90 or 100. So DC fast charging, limit yourself to 80. AC supercharge or regular charging, so whether that's level 1 or level 2, minimum I would normally say set at 80, unless you're going to be using the charge within the next couple of days, in which case go to 100 instead. And then back, you've got a few other options here, but along the very bottom as we jump between, you can also press these icons in order to get to different options. So you can set up battery conditioning for the vehicle, useful for wintertime driving. Utility mode, so if you wanted to use the vehicle as a big battery instead, so if you're glamping. Smart regenerative braking. So that's a neat one. So it's essentially when you've got the adaptive cruise control system going, how fast is the vehicle going to be slowing down? But one of the neat ones there is that you can also utilize the paddle shifters. So you've got your minus on the right-hand side, plus on the left. And that's essentially going to let you go between a few different options inside of the cluster there. So you can go between either level 0, level 1, level 2, level 3, or there's the iPedal instead, which is one pedal driving. So the one pedal drive is useful, but then you can also select how fast you're going to slow down in those circumstances. Normally, fast, that's my personal preference, and that's just going to max the regen capabilities of the vehicle. And then when you go to plug in, do you want to get a notification that you're actually plugging in, yay or nay, and how loud do you want it to be? But that's using the EV settings inside the vehicle. So next up is going to be adding in a phone.
In your mobile device in order to search. On your device, select the name that matches vehicle name.
So all we're doing is looking for Kona. Pins match up, so we're going to pair. And, do I want to allow access to contacts and favorites? I'm going to say no to that because this is a press vehicle. So it should take a second there. And we're connected. So it's requesting download. It's going to say no to that one, obviously, just because. Hold on. Here we go.
Download was
there we go.
Unsuccessful.
All right. So it said no there just because I selected no when I went to go plug the vehicle in initially. But I'm fully connected. You can click through in order to go to your contacts if you said yes to that one. You've got the dial pad, the name of the phone, and then also your connection level and your battery level as well. Now, one nice thing is that the vehicle does have wireless CarPlay. So in order to use it, it is backwards compatible. So if you really wanted to, you could plug yourself in over USB instead. You just have to make sure you're a USB-C in order to plug yourself in, but you can use wireless CarPlay. So we're just going to hit use CarPlay. It supports it. So we're just going to hit yes. And look at that. Oh, CarPlay. Look at that. Beautiful. Stretched across the whole screen. It looks amazing. Along the outside, you've got your current time, battery levels, which map was open last, miscellaneous app was opened as well. You can push back there, and you've got all of your available options too. Look at that. So nice. I love the way it looks, and it's really responsive. The downside to the screen, though, with navigation here, so on the Apple side of things, whether it's Apple Maps, Google Maps, or Waze, they all work the same in the sense that you can move around using your finger, but you can't do a pinch to zoom. So if you want to zoom in or out, you have to go this way in order to do it. Then you can use these map applications the same way you would on your phone. Route options, you can avoid highways, toll roads, and ferries. For my Waze users, that's the map application I like using the most. Big reason why is because you can select and tell people if there are upcoming police crashes, hazards, and things like that. So very useful for highway driving. Once you're hooked up through CarPlay, you can also push and hold the voice command prompt on the steering wheel in order to activate your Siri Assistant instead. So very, very useful. Push this button there in order to get back to the screen. But so many options. Now, one thing to point out is that the screen does not have support for video playback. So you can use YouTube music, VLC for audio and things like that, but you can't actually hook up for video playback at all. But Hoopla is a library app. You've got Skype available and so many other options. Now, one nice thing about the iPhone side of things is that you've got the flexibility to customize. So you can go general, CarPlay, find your vehicle. So the Kona, you can forget the car if you want to. You can customize, and then you can toggle CarPlay off while the phone is locked. So we're just going to go customize, and then you can do a drag and drop in order to customize this. You can push the little X icon, or the minus button, I should say, in order to remove things from the vehicle. So you can see there it's fully deleted them. but they're saved and you can easily add them back in by pushing the plus button there. If you've played around with this too much though and you're not a fan, you can just hit reset, and that's just going to bring you back to the factory default layout screen there instead. Straightforward. You can push the home icon in order to jump out, hopping back inside of CarPlay, and then if you wanted to, you could push the setup icon there, and then if we go device connections, you can look at this, which is going to give you the flexibility to do a few things. So currently connected to CarPlay, but if you wanted to disconnect from CarPlay and then just strictly go over Bluetooth instead, you could do that. You can look at your privacy, your Bluetooth prompts, privacy mode, but Bluetooth system info is where you're going in order to change the vehicle name. So if you don't want it to be Kona, if you wanted to customize your own unique name, that's where you're going to make it happen. And then phone projection for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto options. But that's how you set up an iPhone inside of the Kona EV. Setting up an Android is the exact same process. As of right now, I'm currently connected to the iPhone. So in order to set up a new phone, you're just going to go set up. From there, device connections, and just going to hit add new.
On your mobile device in order to search.
From there, looking for
matches vehicle name on the screen.
Kona. Should pop up in a second. There we go. And Kona. All right, and it should take just a second there. PIN numbers match up, so we're just going to hit OK. Perfect. Look at that. And connected there, and the device supports Android Auto, which is amazing. So, do you want to use it? Yes, we absolutely want to use that. So what it's doing is it's essentially disconnecting from the other phones and hooking up Android Auto. Look at that. 3, 2, and connect. Look at that. Fully connected now. Now, as you can see there, beautiful. You've got your maps, but along the outside, you've got your connection level, battery level, maps, audio, phone. Also got the voice command prompt there. It's saying contacts download unsuccessful because I'm hitting deny there. It's a press vehicle, but if it was yours, you could obviously hit yes if you wanted to. From there, you've got this little icon view into that little split view. But if you wanted full screen maps, you're just going to hit the little Google icon there and say my text messaging unavailable because I hit no on that one. But you're fully connected. And pinch to zoom capabilities on the Apple side, or the Android side of things, I should say. Useful. You can search for addresses there if you want to. You can press the little gear icon in order to do things like avoid things on the route. So if you wanted to avoid motorways, toll roads, ferries, things like that, you've got that flexibility. You can go in and out this way if you want. You can push the home icon. And then if you push the little button there, that's going to get you this little icon view instead. Now, as you can see there, I do have Waze installed on the phone. So if you wanted to use it, you could. Now, if you've got Waze installed on your phone and it's not showing up through Android Auto, I put together a little walkthrough video explaining the process and how to actually add and use Waze inside of any vehicle. You can find that walkthrough down in the description of this video, but that is available as an option instead. And then similar to the iPhone side, you can push and hold the voice command prompt on the steering wheel if you wanted to activate your Google Assistant that way. And then similar to the iPhone side of things, you'd also have the flexibility to be able to customize the screen a tiny little bit. So what you're going to do is search for Android Auto, look for Android Auto settings, and then you've got a ton of different options available. Now, what you could do is customize launcher, and if you wanted to, so this essentially is the default layout, but you could adjust it. So you just push and hold, and then you can drag it up, drag around, but it's not dynamic the same way it was on the iPhone side of things. So if you make changes here and you want them saved, what you're going to do is just go to Setup, Device Connections, you're going to disconnect from Android Auto, reconnect to Android Auto, and watch this. Boom. The changes that we've made have now come into effect. So that's how you set it up. But that's so straightforward. But that's how you set up both Android and iPhone devices inside the vehicle. One cool thing is that you've got the flexibility to do a mix and match. So you can either be Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. You can't be both of them at the same time, but you can do a mix and match here. Like let's say if on one phone you wanted to make sure that you had this connected for your phone calls, but on the other phone you had all of your music. You can do a mix and match that way. You can also do a press and hold on this hamburger icon and drag it around. So it's who gets connection priority. So very useful if you have multiple phones connected. And then deleting devices, you just mark, delete, yes. And look at that. Both phones are now disconnected, and that's how you set up Android and iPhone devices inside of the Kona EV. And moving back home, Series of other options. You've got phone projection, but I'm not hooked up through Android Auto Apple CarPlay anymore, but that's where you'd go to get to some other settings. Voice memos, so you can record memos directly onto the vehicle. From there, you can look at weather, enter valet mode if you wanted to lock the screen out if you were giving the car to a valet driver. There's basic vehicle diagnostic info, maintenance, radio data, notifications, and then your online manual, which again, you have to scan using the QR code to access that. You can push the setup icon there to get to a series of other options. The highlights though, vehicle, driver assistance settings. So there are a series of options that are available here. But as you can see, there's a little bit of a lineup of things along the left side, but you've also got the option of driving into any of those settings as well. So you can go climate, etc. You go to door and it jumps you down into this door. So I love that you've got the icon view to navigate through instead. But as you move through, so let's start off on the driver assistance side of things with convenience settings. Smart cruise control is available. How close or far do you want to be away from the vehicle that's in front of you? What do you want your reaction speed, or the vehicle's reaction speed to be, I should say, for slowing up, speeding down, etc. But let's see here. Highway drive assist is an interesting one because it essentially works hand in hand with the adaptive cruise or smart cruise control system to keep you perfectly balanced in your lane. And then auto highway speed change. So if it recognizes that the speed drops, let's say from 100 to 80, it can automatically change that speed for you, and it works the opposite way. So if it goes from 80 to 100, it can also pick up your set speed again. Driving safety is available there. Lane safety is an interesting one. So if you start to veer over into another lane without signaling, it'll nudge you back into your lane, versus the lane follow assist there with that one turned on. That's going to keep you perfectly balanced in your lane. So really, really good from that perspective. There's also the blind spot view monitor. And that one's a neat one because if you hit your turn stalk and you go left or right, it utilizes the side mounted cameras in order to show you what's going on inside of your blind spot. I love that. It's a really useful one, but it's not available across every trim level of the vehicle, but it is available there. Blind spot safety lets you know on your side view mirrors if somebody's entered the blind spot on either side of the vehicle. There are some different drive modes that are available. Climate, defog, defrost, all that fun stuff. Ambient lighting is pretty neat, so you've got the flexibility of fully adjusting the color if you want to. So color wheel, and that's going to show up in a few different spots of the vehicle. For lights, the other options, welcome light as you go to approach the vehicle, the lights will come on. With the delay, when you go to lock using the fob, the lights just turn off automatically, or they stay on for up to 15 seconds. High beam assist, so when you're in the auto mode inside of the cluster screen, with the high beam assist, if the vehicle recognizes it needs your high beams, it's automatically going to turn them on for you. And then from there, if you wanted to be able to permanently lock out your high beams, you have to be out of that auto mode and then just flip forward in order to turn on your high beams, pull towards you to turn them off. So that high beam assist essentially is going to make sure that your high beams stay on or are on if the vehicle recognizes it needs them, and then auto dim them as well. With the door, you've got options for when the vehicle is going to lock or unlock. Like, do you never want it to automatically unlock? From a safety perspective, that's useful. But there's also remote window control. So you can use the key fob in order to roll the windows down. Let's hop outside and I'll show you how that process works. So you just push and hold the unlock button and watch this. Down they go. If you release, it stops the process. And then you just push and hold again until they go down. So really straightforward. The downside though is that it is powered down like that, but it's manual backup. That is really neat. There's a digital key that's available as well. I unfortunately can't show you the digital key process because this is a press vehicle. And there are a few convenience settings. So a big one here is going to be auto wiper when in reverse. So if you've got your front wipers going and then you put the vehicle into reverse, it's automatically going to turn on that rear wiper for you as well when you have this setting turned on. So useful if it's raining outside. From there, you've got all of the options in order to jump in as well. So again, whether or not you jump in this way or this way, you've got a few options there. Next up, EV settings, which we've already seen, all of the options for utility mode, etc. Navigation settings, there aren't too many exciting ones here to point out. Let's see here, alerts, map. Do you want your font size to be smaller or larger? What do you want the map color to look like? Auto scale means it's going to zoom in and out as you get closer to your end destination. Previous destinations. You've got the flexibility to not save the previously search for destinations. Big benefit there is that if you're lending your vehicle out, or just from a general safety perspective, you can have it so that these things are never remembered. And then basic GPS information. So if you're lost and you're telling a tow truck driver where to find you, you can just give them your latitude, longitude there instead. And then moving back into sound options, see that one. So if you've got the radio cranked, turn the vehicle off and then you turn it back on again, it's not going to be cranked. Position, do you want it focused on the driver, people in the back? Do you want to kind of customize it that tiny little bit instead? Bring it back out to center. Tone, so treble, mid-range, bass. Usually what I recommend for better audio, in this car, the treble up by 2 points and the bass cranked by like 3 or 4 tend to give pretty good audio, in my opinion. But that's going to be a matter of personal preference. And then you can adjust all of your different volumes for different systems. Haptic warning. If you start to veer over without signaling, if somebody enters your blind spot, you don't see them, things like that, you're going to get a little bit of a steering wheel vibration. It's going to feel like you're running over rumble pavement or there's something wrong with your alignment. There's not. There's just some sort of warning that's going on, and that's why you're getting that feedback. But you can turn it off if you wanted to. Parking safety priority. If you're going to back up and there's beeping that you get as you back up, it's going to lower the other volumes so you can hear that instead. And then you can also adjust the volume for Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, for so many different things. Device connections, no device is currently connected, but Bluetooth system info is where you're going to change your vehicle name. User profiles, which we've already seen, but you can customize it a little bit more. So you can change out the name, change out the profile image. You unfortunately can't upload your own image, but you can at least go between the available options there. You can link your BlueLink account. You can even set it up for a password. So if you wanted to make sure that people can't look through all of your options, that's an option too. You can link your digital key and delete the profile on top of that. Voice recognition, reduce the number of prompts. I definitely recommend going that way because you push the voice command prompt and then let's say, hold on. 94.9 FM. Woo! So it just did it. So rather than telling us it was going to do it with the voice recognition of reduced prompts, it'll just do it when you ask it to. So whether that's changing the station, navigating using your voice, and a few other things. Screen layout, so specifically for the cluster, so you can either go classic or simple. I tend to be a fan of the classic look instead, and then you can either link it to the drive mode, or you can change it to different styles. Like I personally love the look of style C, but that's the drive mode that's specifically for sport. So if you go between sport mode versus normal versus eco mode, there are different looks. But let's say if you love the look of the sport mode, but you want the performance of the eco mode, you've got the flexibility to permanently lock it out to any of these modes instead if you wanted to. Looking at the screensaver, do you want nothing or a clock? So a watch face, and what look do you want? Like, do you like the digital look, etc.? So if we turn the screen off, you can see there it's got the digital time versus if you wanted nothing and you turn the screen off, that's available as an option too. And then split screen, with a split screen, what do you want showing up? And in which order do you want it showing up? From there are different buttons that are available too. So there's the one custom button there that you saw. I set it up earlier so that we can have it set up to turn the display on or off, but you can select what you want it to do. And then there are 2 different buttons on the steering wheel. So you've got your custom button on the steering wheel there, same idea. What do you want it to do? There's a mode button on the steering wheel there, and that's going to let you jump between options. So do you want to jump between your Bluetooth audio, sounds of nature, USB music, AM, FM, etc. So I would say set up the mode button for whatever sources you tend to listen to. And then the up-down buttons there are a neat one. So if we go into media for a second, so FM, if you just do an up and down jump, that's going to jump you between all of your different presets. But if you do a press and hold instead, that's going to act as more of like a little seek button, which is kind of neat. But you've got the flexibility of being able to customize it. So that up-down button is going to either change between favorite stations or it can act as a seek button instead. But you can do either or, regardless of how you have it set up. And then the volume tuning button, what do you want it to do there? Always just recommend left versus right. So, well, I guess actually kind of neat because you can jump between and swap if you want to. So rather than your tuning rocker being for tuning, volume for volume there, you can adjust it out either way instead. Cluster head-up display, you've got a few options. So for your cluster screen, what do you want? So again, we've seen that look already, but the next one is going to be head-up display. So do you even want the head-up display showing up, yes or no? So you can toggle it on or off. but then there are different options too. So you can adjust it, so you can rotate it, you can move it up and down, you can adjust the brightness of the head-up display, and then more importantly, you can also adjust the content that's showing up in the head-up display. So do you want your media, call info, and things like that? So if you have a route going, that's actually going to show up in the head-up display as you drive. Looks really, really neat. There's Blue Link info and then some general settings, which the important ones here, looking at date and time. So setting automatically means the vehicle is going to determine what the date and time is. You can select your date and time that way though. So if it's not automatic, you can set it up manually instead. So when it's grayed out, that just means you're in the auto mode. You can have it adjust for daylight savings time. Do you want to be in that military time instead, so 24-hour or the 12-hour mode? Language, do you want English, French, Spanish, or Korean? And then, oh, the other one, that's a neat one. Your measurement units. So you can either go miles or kilometers, but when you do that, it also changes up what's going on inside of the cluster screen. So you can see there between kilometers versus miles, it's automatically adjusting everything out. And that's the same thing for Celsius or Fahrenheit. So you can see it adjust down there instead. It's pretty neat. Different options for media. Let's see. I like my media being on when the vehicle started. So yeah, there we go. And then you can also have the media continuing to play after you turn the vehicle back on again. And then reset. So if you're selling your vehicle, this is a press unit. So when I go to turn it in, I'm going to delete the profile data, but you can reset everything to bring the vehicle back to a full restore instead. And that's it. Like there's a lot of info there, with the exception of the buttons down the center stack, which I kind of already showed you. So you've got your volume rocker there, tuning rocker instead. You've got button presses to go between your home screen, maps. You can search for addresses, look at media, push media again to get to the other options, four-way blinkers, you can seek this way, custom button, and then back to your setup instead. So I know that's a lot of information, but that's everything that you need to know about the infotainment system inside of the Kona EV.